So first of all, it is an infringement of free speech.
Okay.
I don't know that that matters
Oh, that's terrifying.
because
How is that not terrifying to say? So I don't think hate speech is a thing. I don't think we should police hate speech. I think you should be allowed to say things that are hateful.
Wow.
I don't think you should be able to say things that incite direct violence.
So it's just like democratizes creativity in a way, which I think is interesting.
You think that
And-
AI allows us to democratize creativity?
I think in a way.
Have you guys heard about this asteroid that's coming to Earth or whatever? This Abstract 13. Have you guys heard about this?
didn't it pass already?
No.
Abstract 13 is apparently supposed to be able to be viewed by the sun tomorrow.
Oh yeah, okay. Yes.
And there was a guy who told me that this was the coming of Christ.
He's
So
coming on
there's
an
an
asteroid with like a lasso, like yeah.
And like his response was look into it.
No.
That's where we live today, man. And I would have been the jerk. I was like, dude, are you nuts? I was
Is
like,
this
man,
like
I'll
at
Google
a
it.
gas
man."
station in the middle of the night?
No, it's at the boxing gym. I don't know. I can't think of the last time I thought about the rapture though. Have you thought about the rapture? When's the last time?
When we were supposed to have the rapture a few months ago and it didn't happen. That's the last time I thought about
When's the last time you thought about
the
the
rapture.
rapture? When's the last time you thought about the rapture?
Honestly, 2012.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I feel like I took that real serious. Okay?
Did you?
I did.
Oh.
I
She was
did.
also.
You were young at that time. Yeah,
years
yeah.
old.
Okay.
I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm hearing a lot of buzz about this. So
Like people close to you taking it seriously?
None of us.
no.
No. Okay.
No.
I was there.
Yeah.
They were blind to the truth.
Right. Maybe the world did end in 2012 and this is all just hell.
Maybe.
So what are we getting into today, guys?
Well, you had something you saw about the Chinese
Yes.
government restricting.
Oh my goodness. So scrolling through the interwebs,
Mm-hmm.
I came across this headline of an article, and then I've looked into it a bit more, where there's like, I guess, a body that controls web information in China. I can't remember the acronym for it, but I definitely should have prepared. But what they've done now is they've made it so that to give medical and financial advice, you need to show accreditation of some kind, or they fine you the equivalent of $20,000. Is this an infringement on free? We were just talking earlier about there being no truth.
Mm-hmm.
Is this them trying to protect truth, or is this infringing on free speech in the cyber space?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I mean, I feel
Like, are you for that or against that? Do you want to
I-
feel like you're influencers, and it doesn't just have to be finance or medical, but do you feel like you should know that they're qualified to talk to you?
I feel like at first blush, it does sound like it would be a really positive thing, having that type of regulation. But to me, it just sounds like another form of censorship. Do you know what I mean? It's like controlling who has a voice and who can contribute. Whereas it's like, I mean, who's really seriously, if you really want sound financial advice, you're probably going to go to your financial advisor. Do you get what I mean? It's like, I think in general, if you're consuming content from an influencer giving advice about relationships, whatever, just being media literate, that should just be put through a filter. You know what I mean? Already. So if it's like about the spread of misinformation, I think then the charge of the government or whoever, if they actually care about the like vested interest of the people, would be, okay, how can we make people more media literate, as opposed to how can we censor creators or whatever.
So first of all, it is an infringement of free speech.
Okay.
I don't know that that matters
Oh, that's terrifying.
because
Okay.
How is that not terrifying to say?
because I think that there is already an infringement on free speech and censorship with the way that social media platforms operate that we turn a blind eye to, which is that the algorithm is a form of censorship, because basically what we've done is we've taken all of these institutions that used to sort of give us a common playing field. So the news, everyone used to watch the same more or less news. You know, we used to get our medical information from more or less the same experts or organizations. And we've sort of democratized that to anybody who can talk. And then what we've done is taken that and put that in the hands of a couple of billionaires whose goal is to maximize the profit of those opinions. And to do that, they're maximizing the profits. To maximize their profits, they're typically boosting the voices that are most divisive, because those get the most engagement, most eyes on ads, most money for them. So essentially, we've created through social media, we've created a platform where reasonable voices are silenced because they're not boosted through the algorithm. They don't get the same engagement as divisive ones do. And voices of people who have no idea what they're talking about are spread widely. And I think you have a good point about media literacy, but I also think, A, a lot of people don't have that and have no interest in developing that. And two, like if you see the same piece of information over and over again, you start to believe it's true, even if it doesn't sound that way. So like, it reminds me of a Bible verse, which is that everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And I think with social media, what we've largely done is say that everything is permissible. Let's just see what happens. And, you know, our love for free speech has mostly recently become like, I should be able to say hate speech and it should be fine, or I should be able to say whatever I want and it should be fine. And I think there's a balance between free speech and what is beneficial to a society. And I don't think that having people on social media giving medical or financial advice without any accreditation is beneficial to a society generally.
Yeah, it's just so hard though, because it's like who's putting those regulations in place?
Yes.
People in power. Do you know what I mean? I still think in some way it's like not in the vested interest of the people. Or it's just such a slippery slope once, you know what I mean, you start putting confines of what people can say. And I do hear what you're saying about like anybody can just say anything on the internet, which is definitely one of its pitfalls. But I think it's also a good thing that anybody can say anything in a public sphere, you know? But I guess
I'm going to push back on you with that only because, and he mentioned it. So I don't think hate speech is a thing. I don't think we should police hate speech. I think you should be allowed to say things that are hateful.
Wow.
I don't think you should be able to say things that incite direct violence.
But how are those?
They're dramatically different. We all know how those things are different. I hate you is not kill him.
Okay, but maybe
I hate you. I think you're less. I hate you. I think you're less than. I think you're ruining my country. I think you're part of the reason why I pay high taxes is not. I think we should roll up to that guy's house and murder him.
But I also think that you need to acknowledge that a lot of the times in those conversations that people are having around hate speech, or even not direct hate speech, there are like dog whistles that do incite violence. And
exactly. So let's talk about the violence because there's. What I don't want to do is ignore the millions of people that hear hate speech and do not take actions of violence. Hate speech isn't the problem. The problem is mentally ill people that hear hate speech and commit violent crimes.
So how do you suggest that
the solution is to police the violence, not the speech. I'm allowed to say whatever I want. And you are allowed to respond however you want to what I've said within the confines of not infringing upon me physically. I've never been a big hate speech person, maybe because I grew up in the 90s in Brampton, right? As a really tall guy. I heard stuff that I thought was crazy.
You've been beat down.
No, but I heard stuff that I thought was crazy. And I think the first time in kindergarten, somebody said something crazy to me, I hit him, and it was very clear. You don't hit people. Like, this is wrong. So then you learn to engage in appropriate debate or to disengage from things that are beneath you. That is the power.
But I also think that something like hate speech isn't even conducive with any type of debate or
what is
critical
hate speech?
Engagement.
What is hate speech?
Okay, well, I'm sure are a lot of different examples, but I'm just thinking
sorry, and we'll
like,
give that caveat
if someone,
to you.
okay, what you were saying, oh, you're less than, so let's just say like anti whatever, like white supremacist ideology.
Should I block that? Should I block that opinion from being online? Should I prevent that from being able to be said online? Should I penalize that person for saying it online? Now I want to be clear. I defend that person's right to say whatever they want online. But I also defend their job's right to say we don't want that guy working for us, right? Like, I think those two things can exist, but I don't think this person should be. If we want to vilify them, but it's not. The crime isn't what they said. They're telling you what they think. I
mean, maybe I would just be weary of it being platformed. Like, let's say there should be like guidelines and regulations in terms of the type of content that you could put on YouTube. Like, you can't spout that. If you want to make your own website and whatever, garner your audience that way, that's separate than platforming harmful rhetoric that can incite violence against a marginalized group of people.
I think it's a distinction between public and private spaces. So like, you know, when your Uncle Cletus and his cousin wife says, you know, I don't like this particular group of people, that's a opinion they share, and they could share that opinion. They could talk about it all they want in the privacy of their own home. They can even go down to the local restaurant and talk to their friends about it.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't go into a school and give a public speech about how they hate a certain group of people. And I think is to go with what Jade said, it's similar to like if you go into a forum where a group of like-minded people have gathered and you all talk about how much you hate this group of people, that sucks. But I think that is an understandable use of the internet to communicate with people who think the same way as you. I think social media isn't obviously, but should be, because it's a public forum, a safe place for all people to go on. I should not, if I am a racialized or marginalized person, I should not go on social media and see something that is hate speech towards me. I should not be able to see that without seeking it out. Just as like I shouldn't be able to go into a school and there shouldn't be a swastika on. Like I shouldn't be able to see.
You're putting
hate.
both in the same paradigm.
Right.
What I'll push back on in terms of like, can't you know, when you say you couldn't just walk, I mean, people that lived through the segregated bus system in the 60s and 70s in both Canada and the United States would strongly disagree with the fact that people were not able to stand up and speak as to why they shouldn't desegregate the school system. Right, like people were allowed to give their speeches and their opinions. What usually happens in the public square, which we would hope happens online, and it kind of eventually does. It's a bit messier. Is that the voice that does not have a lot of backing does eventually get drowned out by the voices that do. That does happen online. A lot of this obscure hate speech content, it's platformed, but it's not advertised. It's not promoted because there's not a lot of voices promoting it. And then the places where people promote those voices, it's a subculture space. Like we, you know, God rest his soul, we talk about Charlie Kirk and all the things that people felt about Charlie Kirk.
God rest his soul.
I mean, he's dead, right? So
R.I.P.
But when I talk to a lot of not even liberal, but I just talk to a lot of general people. Hey, have you heard Charlie Kirk talk? No. Did you hear any of what he said? A couple sound bites here and there, but no. Did you feel like you were inundated with Charlie Kirk content? No. Where's the abuse? In that regard, where, like, you know what I'm saying? Is I make the same argument when people were trying to get Dave Chappelle off Netflix for his specials for cracking jokes on, and again, the comedy is a bit of a different space, but it's like, you're not forced to engage with this person's content. Thus, you can't force it off. You can't force it off YouTube.
Sure, like for people who are on the left who have established
public sphere, sorry, not just YouTube, it's everybody.
People on the left who have established their own echo chamber, they might not see that stuff, but like teens who are, and there's been studies on this, like teens who are like watching video gaming content before long are watching like alt-right propaganda content because that's the way the algorithm pushes them, because that pushes engagement. So
is that true?
Yeah. It's the same on the left. Like if you start off with left-leaning content, you get pushed further and further because that stuff is more divisive. And so like, yeah, there's certainly ways to insulate yourself from it if you're already at the point where, you know, if you believe that hate speech of a certain kind is wrong, you're probably not going to encounter it. But if you're susceptible or you're somewhere in the middle, the chances that you see some of that stuff and it's mild to start and then it gets more and more intense, that certainly happens, especially to young people.
Actually, to your point too, I saw this video the other day. It was about this guy who was in like deep into the manosphere, I guess, like watching a lot of that incel red pill like content. And he became like increasingly radicalized over the years. But then just like his own personal experiences, he realized that he was just like really misinformed, and that a lot of these people were really angry and like spreading misinformation. But he said it took him a year to like change his algorithm because it just kept funneling that content. So I think maybe for those people who aren't like that online, they maybe wouldn't have come across Charlie Kirk, but I think anybody else probably would if you're watching any type of political content or like pop culture, you know, because his content was circulating, it was around. Yeah,
but I'll be honest, when I started to listen to Charlie Kirk, I was in a phase and a mental state where I was seeking to hear Charlie Kirk. I was saying, let me watch this debate. I was saying, let me watch this 30-minute back and forth. I was engaging in that. Same thing when I would watch Andrew Tate. You hear the name, but I wasn't. It's not like I was a Clockwork Orange forced to watch it.
Right.
I didn't feel abused by this, and in the moment, as today, in the moment that something comes across my eyes that I do find too offensive, I do say, you know, that's about enough for me. I'm gonna step away from that now.
I know, but that's you.
It's everybody.
everybody.
Nobody
No, it's
watches
not-
something
it's
they
not
don't like.
universal.
Yes, the car accident. You watch them, that maybe gives you adrenaline, gives you a quirkiness and excitement, right? But you're not there unless you're curious. And look, if you're curious, the last thing I should do is deplatform what you're curious about. Go explore it. I'm relatively
Curious
confident.
or in a very vulnerable,
I'm relatively
isolated,
confident that when
dark place.
I'm relatively confident that when allowed to run the path of all available information, people do eventually find themselves at the place they were always going to be. I think that when you take things and mystify them, oh, you can't have this. You almost force people towards those things. I really believe in this sort of free for all of information. Now, I do think that in terms of our original question, what China has done, I think, is important. But I don't like it in the sense of you're fined if you're not accredited, as much as we should probably just promote and enhance and almost support. Because here's what I'll say, where you're talking about platforms and companies. As a business, which is YouTube, I'm allowed to make a decision about who I want to promote. The same way a sports team is allowed to make a decision about what athlete they want to pay more. At the end of the day, YouTube is a network, whether we want to admit it or not. They're paying people. And God willing, we get paid off doing this one today, right? So they're paying. They're allowed to promote or emphasize people that fit their values. But I don't think they're allowed to remove people that don't.
To go back to your point you made quite a while ago, you were saying, who gets put in power making the decisions, government. I think what's happened, like with social media, with YouTube, with all these things, they've developed so fast, and governments have kind of been like, hey, don't do that. But for the most part, they've completely fundamentally changed. I'm not being over dramatic. The fabric of society, the entire way that human beings interact, find truth, absorb content, all these things. And for the most part, we have let corporations decide how that works. And for a while, they were trying to be good, but then they realized that they could do whatever. And then, or in the case of Elon Musk or Trump, just make a new social media platform that only has stuff on there that they like. I think it's the role of government to because you're right, YouTube can promote whoever it wants, deplatform whoever it wants. It's the role of government to say
sorry, no, I don't think YouTube should be allowed to deplatform. Because once they
can, but
I think YouTube has already accepted, and the way governments interact with this thing. Sorry, I'll let you finish your point, but I'm more so saying that yes, traditionally a private company should be allowed to let you on, let you off.
Yeah.
Certain things, like you said, they've grown so big and they've become such cultural things that unfortunately I don't think you can deplatform people if you're X or YouTube. You've become the digital public square. You can't put that cat back in the bag. You're making literally billions of dollars because you're that. So you're benefiting from that. The only thing I'm going to let you do, if you're a company and you have certain values, like any other business, you can promote who you want, but you can't get people off here because this is the public square. That's what you want it to be.
Well, to that point, an interesting thing to consider, Tenet Media got deplatformed after it came out that they were being paid by the Russians.
Yeah.
But they're still saying the same shit.
Yeah.
The before and after, they were saying the same stuff.
Yeah.
So why are they deplatformed? Because they got paid by the Russians, but not deplatformed for what they were saying. Because it was acknowledged that what they were saying was Russian propaganda and that's bad.
Yeah.
But they kept saying it after they weren't being paid by the Russians anymore.
Right.
So where's the line between getting deplatformed and not?
That's a good point.
That's a political, now we're bleeding, right? And that's another problem. Not a problem, but that's just the reality of big business, right? So the largest company in the world right now, I think, is Apple, $3.3 trillion. Look, man, you make $3.3 trillion. A lot of countries are worried about what you're doing and are caring about who your CEO is. And I think the most visited website on the planet is still Google with the amount of impressions they get per day. As much as, yes, you'd like to think that these enterprises exist as private, we're dealing with nation state companies now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're countries in their own right. In that regard, YouTube, a Google property, right? Google acquired YouTube, right? Yeah. So YouTube, a Google property, it's American. So that's more of a political alignment thing. I'm sure if there was a Russian equivalent of YouTube that we were all running to or allowed to run to, that wouldn't have been the issue.
Right. So that's my point. Why is YouTube allowed to make judgments on political alignments but not moral alignments? Is it not more harmful to society to have people on there who are promoting hate speech that leads to violence against certain groups than it is to have people spouting Russian propaganda.
It could be it could be more harmful to society, but it is less politically damaging. And I think that's the conversation that we're having. Where do you give grace to the game of politics that your larger tech companies have to play today? I'm asking you that question personally.
No, because I think that
Okay.
I think that we're seeing in real time how that leads to autocracy. Because if the tech companies control all of the information, which they do,
Mm-hmm.
and the tech companies are loyal to whoever is in charge of the United States, and whoever is in charge of the United States is rapidly slinking towards dictatorship,
Mm-hmm.
then the tech companies become an arm of propaganda. And then you're not having, like you had in the Soviet Union or like you have in China, where you have an arm of the government that disperses propaganda.
Mm.
You have all of the information in the world being propaganda of a certain nation state, because all of the billionaires who own all of the information are American, with some exceptions, of
Some
course.
exceptions, yeah. Why do you find that dramatically different than in the 60s when we had ABC and NBC? There was like 3 channels, right? Yes, it's happening and it's moved to the digital age. My contention is this has always been how the game was played. There was always only 3 networks.
But then it's like, can we not do any better? Isn't that the whole point? Isn't that what everyone was
This
so
is better. It's
excited
online
about?
now.
I'm not going to pretend those networks weren't biased, but they also had newsrooms full of editors and fact checkers and people who are committed to some amount of integrity.
And for 20 years, nobody black. I mean, everybody can make the argument, and no women. It is what it is. We made it anyway. We're here. You know what I mean? Like, and society, in spite of its beginnings, maybe I'm an overly optimistic, hopeful guy. To me, when I think of the core DNA of North America and where we are now, I actually find it impressive. Because the core DNA should not give room to the type of people that we currently give room to. I think we're fighting our way to the place that we want to be. And in the fact that we're even allowed to have this conversation. And in the fact that this is what it is. But at the end of the day, yeah, if you got a couple $1 billion, you got 10, 20, 30. I said it here before on another show, I'll say it here. We're a small team. But at the end of the day, this is ours. If there's something that the 3 of us don't want to talk about, it's not going on this. It's not going on any of these microphones. And that's fair. If we get large enough, that's not going to change. What, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, are we going to penalize these guys for being billionaires? They want to have a part in the public conversation just like us. They just happen to be doing it at a multi-billion-dollar level because of what they're able to purchase. What's wrong with that?
Why don't we just let the billionaires have 1 billion votes for everyone else's 1 vote? That's what they can pay for. So they should have a bigger say in democracy.
No, but there are rules, and which is why I love. You know, there's rules that say you can't buy somebody's vote. Like, which is why, no.
So it's good to have regulations around speech and things like that.
It's good to have
rules.
It's
I
good
think
to have
that's what's so
regulations. It's good to have regulations around the political process. And we do have antitrust laws. There are certain mergers that can't happen. We do try and create a level of competition. There are regulations.
What mergers don't happen?
But
what mergers do not happen now? They all happen.
That's why certain mergers don't happen. No, you're not wrong. A lot of the mergers that they don't want to have happen end up happening.
Yeah,
they push someone through. But I just think that, like, I'm a life optimist person. Where I look at the flow of our world and the checks and balances that exist, considering the amount of money and power that exists on the other side of that sphere, I think we're doing all right. And I think it's dangerous. For example, China is able to fine people. If you come on and you give financial advice and you don't have an accreditation from a university that I'm accredited from here. It's not a university I like. Here's a $20,000 fine. The slope is too slippery. If I don't think I'm this, but if I'm veering or more adjacent to feeling like a free speech absolutist, then I have to be willing to live in the uncomfortable reality of what that means. I got to take the good with the bad. I do not like the precedent of, if you don't have a level of expertise that I think is appropriate, don't talk. I don't like that. I'm going to see how I feel about this as I say it. I'd probably rather a form of censorship than out and out censorship.
What's the difference? It's
Because-
just difference of government or private industry.
You'd
One
ra-
of them is policy forward, and one of them is profit forward.
I think maybe because as a capitalist, I'm thinking that if it's a form of censorship and they say, hey, the algorithm's not feeding you enough content, again, then maybe the business guys and he's like, we could force that. You know, you get enough,
You can go to school and get an
grassroots.
accreditation. So the government's happy with what you're saying.
Mhm.
And then you don't have to compete with as many people. So you
Right.
actually, it's a
Or
faster
you
way.
also could make, you don't have to give financial advice without any.
Tony Robbins is going to disagree with you on that one. Okay, he's built an entire empire.
He totally
He's grifted his way to a whole empire.
Right.
Tony Robbins is not going to be a fan of that answer right there. Neither is Patrick Bet-David.
You either have two options, which are that you accept that social media is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and that we are going to forevermore live in a world where no two people have the same conception on the basic fabric of reality. Like if the earth is round or if science exists, like, or you have to start looking at social media and say, I think maybe we've gone a little too far here and we have to try to rein some things back and try to get back to a place where like people are somewhat on the same page.
Yeah, I just believe that we will. I think if all the voices speak, and this is where I can't disagree with your point about the promotion thing, but I believe that if all the voices given a chance to talk will garner all the voices given a chance to speak, the truest, most honest voice will get the biggest audience. I still believe that eventually is what happens.
I think you're right, but I don't think true is true. I think it's the voice that most accurately appeals to how people are feeling.
We're getting to that beautiful point in a discussion where you're kind of at a stalemate. Because I can't disagree with the points you guys are making. You're making very good points. And it is something to think about because you're right. Social media companies are promoting very deliberately and specifically, which is a form of not promoting very deliberately and specifically, which could be argued as censorship. So I don't know what the solution is. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. These social media nation states are they've become the public sphere. They've become what they've become. You had one story that you want to go into AI wise.
Oh, well, it's not really a story so much as just, I feel like there's been a huge boom with a lot of AI influencers and creators, and just how you guys feel about that. Are you for, against, scared?
It connects probably to the previous conversation we were having about social media platforms and pushing. And like I said, in preparation for this, I was looking at a list of like the top earners, social media earners on YouTube and stuff like that. Again, the faces and the content and the, like, you break it all down, and as much as it seems like, oh shucks, regular guy, once you see it over a long tapestry of thing, you're kind of like, no, like I feel like the algorithm really was promoting a certain type of person,
Yeah.
a certain look.
Right.
Like how many heavy set influencers do you know that are in the upper echelon? Not many.
Right.
How many people that are part of a BIPOC community? Not many. Maybe Lily Singh is our Canadian one. I think she's making like $20 million a year on just her YouTube.
Oh, wow.
We got some other people, but the big names in social media are who they are.
Yeah.
So you introduce the AI, what's it going to do? Isn't it just going to double down on what's already being monetized? Because like Ryan said, it's a business.
I was just going to say, I feel like there's a lot of, I guess, pushback of people saying that AI content is soulless, or it kind of like taking over, I guess, authenticity of like real creators or just creativity in general. But I also think it does relate a lot to like what we were talking about too, in terms of like it lowers the barrier of access. You know, like there is a very real team of people behind these influencers or creators or faces, but it allows you to platform voices or tell stories without maybe falling into the same pitfalls of like, does this person have a face that's like marketable? Or do they have like a fancy studio setup or whatever else? So it's just like democratizes creativity in a way, which I think is interesting.
You think that AI allows us to democratize creativity?
I think in a way, because if you have access to
Let me
these
sit with that
tools,
one.
if you have access to these tools and you're able to create a whole online persona and garner an audience and monetize it and make money, you still have to be creative in order to use these tools. But I don't think the tool itself is bad necessarily.
I look at this the same way I used to look at live action movies and cartoons. So I guess there is a point where it's like, I'm happy I saw the difference between live action movies and cartoons. And there were times when I wanted live action, there were times when I wanted cartoons. I was really confronted with this when Disney started like redoing all their stuff. And I would watch a live action and I'd be like, nah, this was better as a cartoon. I definitely didn't need to be live action. And I think that maybe AI is just going to be part of it. I don't think AI will take over as much as people thought it would. I mean, as a trader, they did this example where they asked AI to go trade gold. It lost like 4 out of 5 trades or something like that. Cause some things
Really?
because as far as I know, AI is not yet totally conscious. It is essentially a huge aggregator that is pulling massive amounts of existing information and then spitting out the most likely and possible answer.
Which is why I'd be surprised that it wouldn't
trade well.
Something like trade.
People are random. But plus, gold was coming off all-time highs at the time, so the aggregated information was probably hard. Like, it would be hard to do. Trading is hard to do.
Yeah.
I'm not as worried. I don't think I look at AI the same way I kind of look at the .com boom of the 2000s, where I think that right now things that say AI are getting massive amounts of money. So I think the AI thing is active, just like .com was active.
Yeah.
We went online. But I think some of this stuff is going to be nonsense. And I think it's a bit of a bubble that will burst a bit. So I'm not as worried about it in that regard. One of the bubble bursting moments is, I think, AI's introduction into content, because if you're not conscious, I don't think you could be creative.
But okay, interesting. But it's like a team of people that are behind these like influencer bots. Like, it's real people that are running these pages.
Yeah, but if they had any talent, I'm going to say something nuts. If they had any talent, they'll just pick some random guy working at Starbucks and say, you're next. Why do you have to AI it? Justin Bieber was a product for many years before he became his own individual, and he made lots of people lots of money.
Well, these were people that already had money to put behind this random kid from Stratford and whatever, platform him or market him. Let's say you don't have that. Let's say you're like starting from ground zero and maybe you don't have access to funds to, you know what I mean? So it like facilitates that in a way, which is cool.
It does. I used to be a creative. So I'm always going to be on the side of creatives over any part of that creative process that isn't the creative. I don't want to disrespect the teams that are behind it, and I don't want to disrespect their lack of money, maybe making them have to come up with this new creative solution. They're, in a weird way, they're being creative to come up with a solution. But I'm always going to side with not just the teams. I'm going to side with the front end. No, it's just because it's a talent and a skill to discover a Pamela Anderson, to discover a Justin Bieber, to discover and make an Usher, to discover and make a Chris Brown. And I'm not talking about like the people that you see as part of these people's stories later on. Yeah. I'm talking about people that went out there and said, hey, let's get to work. There's a talent to that. And we should honor that. Generating something like that I just don't think it's as much skill. And I know I'm being super old school. Yeah. In saying that. Because I know it takes a lot. Right. Nothing's easy.
I think if it could be done successfully, it is really creative, and it is a skill in and of itself, because it's like you're taking this thing that's thought of as like impersonal and clinical and making people feel something, or, you know what I mean, driving engagement. Like the thought that people could connect to AI art.
Like, this doesn't make you feel uncomfortable? Like, art, you're engaging with another human being that had something to say. That little kernel of the human moment on the other end of that matters to me when I look at my art. When I look at pictures and a person took that photo, you know, those, I don't know why, those things matter to me. A person slaved away at this canvas for hours, months, you know, little touches. The reality of that does something to me.
Because you're reacting to the purpose of art, which is not to make money. Art shouldn't be a enterprise to make a fake person so you can get views on YouTube. Like, art is a way that human beings have expressed themselves since we were in caves painting with like leaves. I don't know. I don't care if there's skill behind AI. I saw a tweet the other day or thread, whatever it was, that was like, if I built a giant robot that sucked all of the water out of a lake and stole everyone's art, I would go to prison, and that's how you know laws are made up. I don't like democratization of things. I like there to be a barrier of entry, because that requires that you are good at something. And so what you're sharing is something that you have, you know, spent hours honing. And if you're a painter, you've spent 10,000 hours painting so that your painting is worthy of hanging on someone's wall. For someone to write like a landscape with a lake and a ferry, go. I don't know. I feel like the rub of democratization is that, yes, more people can do it, but now there's 10 million people competing to do this thing. And you still have the same chances of making it as you did before. It's just that you're competing with people who have absolutely no skill or talent, whereas before you had to work really hard to get that skill. And I don't know. I don't think it helps.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm just optimistic, I guess, about it, or cautiously optimistic,
sure.
because I feel like with any new thing, there's pushback and like fear about like what it then means for the future. I mean, even photography. Oh, sorry. Like before that, people were like, oh, you're not painting this image. You're not sitting for hours and capturing whatever. And it's like, oh, you're cheating. And now it's like, oh my God, film, photography. It's this whole like medium that's taken really seriously. And I think that who knows where we'll be years from now. Maybe we'll feel similarly about AI as a tool, because it's kind of, it's widening like what's possible.
Struggle with that one.
When you say where are years from now, I just picture the scene from Terminator 2 where she's at the park and there's gets blown up by the nuke.
The hard part I have with that is it's hard to take a good picture. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like when I see people take pictures, no, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I snap shots. When I see people take proper photos,
yeah,
there's a skill to this thing.
And don't you think that the same could then be true for what's being output using AI tools?
Dude, no, dude. You know, I feel.
Do you know what I mean?
I feel when he's making the thing about art, I feel the same way about art, AI, this whole thing, as what happened with hip hop. There's a period of time where people that were doing hip hop were artists that wanted to express themselves.
Okay.
And then partway through, there were people who realized, like, yo, they're just actually paying guys to rhyme words together. And then everybody started rapping. Everybody. Guys who sold drugs started rapping. Guys who were selling drugs to the guy who sold it. Then you had gangster rap for a little bit. And then the artist. And it didn't ruin my musical genre, but we had a conversation on another show that we do. You might want to set on for this, please watch. Where we said, I think that the music hip hop star could be dead. It might be over in terms of the supreme crossover appeal hip hop star. And what we didn't say then that I'm saying now is it's because we're platforming artists that actually don't have anything to say.
Mm-hmm.
They're nowhere near as interesting as the people that we used to let get over.
Right.
They're just rhyming words together and melodic and putting on a persona. There's no authenticity here, and it's flaming it out. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I cut you off. But I mean, wouldn't you argue that their success is on account of the fact that maybe they might not have anything to say, but they make people feel something?
But then they'd last longer. Artists are burning out way too fast, in my opinion, if for what you're saying to be accurate. And I think it's because they aren't interesting. They can't keep us interested. Because there's not enough there. Say what you want. Kanye West is interesting. Mm-hmm. He was going to have something to say for the rest of his life.
Maybe too interesting.
Depending on who you are.
He might have too much going on, right? He might have too much going on. Art is in a different place. Art is in a different place because not all art is timeless. Mm-hmm. And I want artists to get paid. I really do. I just worry that AI is going to make art too businessy. And I think it'll ruin it.
Then it already is. I mean, it is so businessy.
I think we're fighting like hell to keep it, you know? Yeah. Like,
if you're competing now with something that doesn't even exist, like you're not even competing with other people to make art.
AI is coming to destroy our art. And China is leading the way on the level
of our financial advisors.
On censoring financial advisors and medical advice. Naturopaths everywhere unite. To the final question to you guys, China's done it. Could you ever see these United States of America or this North American political climate allowing for that level of public censorship of speech across finance and medical advice? Keeping in mind who Donald Trump brought in as...
I was going to say, RFK Jr. is going to censor anything that tells you not to like put worms in your brain. So yeah, I could see that happening in America for sure.
You could?
No, I don't think so. That they would be like, you have to have a qualification.
If I'm RFK
no, the opposite.
Oh, okay. If I'm RFK Jr., you don't need any certification.
If you have a certification, actually get out of here.
Get out of here. Right. You're special interest.
Yeah.
You should be in jail with Fauci.
Yeah.
Okay, so never in the States, you don't think?
Not right now. Certainly not in the modern political climate.
I agree.
I don't think so because I think too many people in the United States make money on people's lack of financial literacy.
100%.
Right. What did you just say? Tony Robbins,
Patrick Bet-David. It was the Tas Lopez guy. He just got caught. They thought he was doing something with Starbucks. He was going to do. I mean, he has a hard time. He's going to have to explain that one.
Even like, televangelists give out tons of financial. Their financial advice is give me money, but like they have to start going to school.
So yeah, it's too big. 400 million people in the United States of America. 400 million people in the United States of America. I think it's like 60% of them live under the poverty line. It's 250 million available people to just believe what you're saying, dude, and give you $20.
It's dark.
It's the math.
So dark.
400 million people live in America. More people trying to go every day. More and more people living under, not the poverty line. They're beyond check to check. They're check to check with debt.
Wow.
Those are the people that you can sell anything to. 250 million minimum of those people in these United States of America.
That's American.
It's big business. It's big business. You got $1 for each one of those people. You're making $250 million a year.
Dark.
You get 10, you're $2.5 billion.
Dark.
You find a way to sell something for 100, you're hobnobbing with Elon Musk.
Wow.
Well, that was another episode of Opposites React. My name is Travell.
Jade.
Ryan.
And we hope that you enjoyed this conversation. We'll be back with another topic for you in a little bit.
If you like this episode, please subscribe to our feed wherever you get your podcasts, or like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube page.